Yes. So Assassin's Creed Shadows has yet to come out, but the controversy around the Black Samurai Yasuke in the game continues. And the producer from Ubisoft made his statement about the backlash recently in an interview with Game Files. Here's what he said. This was also specifically in response to Elon Musk, because while this was all going on, Elon tweeted, "DEI kills art," in response to this. And here was his live reaction. Cody did not take the claim well. He said that tweet generated emotions, that the first thing I wanted to do was go back on X, which I deleted, and just tweet back. And I took a step back. I have a mindfulness app on my phone. And I did a bit of mindfulness to try to explore the emotions that that tweet created for me. Elon, it's sad. He's just feeding hatred. I had a lot of 3-word replies that came to mind. And he said that Elon Musk will not convince people that Ubisoft's point of view, about Ubisoft's point of view as a team. He emphasized that Yusuke is very, very grounded in the history of the franchise and how we make our choices. But not grounded in actual history, just the history of the Assassin's Creed franchise specifically. But he said, what Elon says is not the game that we're building. People have to play the game for themselves. And if within the first 11 minutes and 47 seconds, they are not convinced of what we're doing, we can have that discussion. I was reviewing the game very recently, and I was like, the answer is there. I just hope and wish that people can keep an open mind about this and see the game for what it is. It's an Assassin's Creed game, and I believe the best one that we've ever built.
Right.
I mean, it's his job to say that part.
Of course.
Right,
yeah.
but I just Googled it, and it says, like, Yusuke, 1550s, was a black samurai who served in the daimyo. I'm never going to pronounce it. Oda Nobunaga in Japan. So, like,
this is the official narrative, but we've gone through the lore on the show previously, and he was not, in fact, a samurai.
He was a sword bearer for...
Yes.
What's his name?
It was some actual samurai employed him, basically, and also took a strange fascination with him for his dark skin complexion. But he was not a samurai. That is not historical fact by any means. It's just the official narrative that they're going with is that this was a black samurai. And you know what? Even if that were the true story of this person, it doesn't exactly explain why you chose to make him the protagonist of this game, which fans have been asking for years upon years. If you're choosing to make the game about Japanese samurai in a historically accurate way, your choice to make the protagonist black is glaringly Western. Okay, like it's glaringly posture toward DEI quotas, and that's apparent to everyone to see. But that was his response to the backlash. Of course, it's what he had to say.
These stories, like ideas like this 15, 20 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, would have met with a lot less backlash because people wouldn't be looking at it in the kind of jaded lens that we have today. And the idea that something's like, oh, maybe it's not accurate, but it's a great story, right? It's a great story and idea. But knowing the inner workings of these companies now, knowing the policies that are put in place to make something that was once a unique idea that could be used to subvert expectations, knowing that there's corporate reasoning behind it, destroys the idea that it was done in good faith.
Right, and you mentioned that one of these promotional videos they put out for the game has a hip-hop beat in it, and it's like, I'm having a hard time believing that you would put that in the video to promote this game if the protagonist were actually Japanese. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And it feels, honestly, it feels racist, low-key. But, you know, they're going to just double down. That's what they're going to do. I expected this. And also, just hours ago, The Guardian put out an article from Keza McDonald, who I believe actually was head editor for Kotaku during the original Gamergate. So this is one of the, you know, original characters in this saga. It's titled, "The Disturbing Online Misogyny of Gamergate Has Returned, if it ever went away." While some of their language has changed, the sentiment of this latest aggressive movement is just as distressing. It's time for the game industry to stand up to it. And they rehashed all of the lore around Gamergate, but they said the language has changed a bit in the past decade. They used to be upset about SJWs, and now they've taken issue with a different acronym, DEI, or just good old woke. But the sentiment from this group is the same. Games are for us only, and if you want games to change or to tell stories outside of the straightforward, male-oriented power fantasies that we grew up with, then, well, that's not allowed. We won't stand for it. In fact, we will try to aggressively harass you out of this space entirely.
Again, that's never been the point. Once again, that's never been the point. I feel like they're cognizant enough to understand that that's never been the point. The point has always been that it's forced and it seems disingenuous.
Mm-hmm. But your point falls on deaf ears because they want to feel like they're the victims, and it's just
is there any way where I can earnestly say this, and people can earnestly say, hey, it's not that it's a black person, it's that it's forced, contrived, and repetitive and low effort.
Mm-hmm.
Like how
they can't respond to that because that would steel man the argument. They don't have a justification after that.
That's the biggest.
They have to frame you as one of the 4chan trolls.
That's one of the issues that I have with most sides of this, and this is from it's a problem with internet discussion in general, which is that most of it is talking at someone and not talking to someone, and there isn't a whole lot of steel manning the argument from either side. That happens more if you're actually having a discussion in real life, not a debate, but an actual discussion. They're not subverting expectations anymore, because now in 2024, to subvert someone's expectations truly would be to tell a story exactly how it was originally supposed to be told and not just changing things for the sake of it. Mm-hmm. Right?
They said the usual grifters have taken issue with, in no particular order, the fact that female characters in recent game trailers have square jawlines and masculine bodies, that journalists gave Stellar Blade bad reviews because its female characters are too hot, that too many games feature, quote, DEI haircuts, and you don't even need to show a picture, you know exactly what it is, and that Ubisoft was somehow forced by shadowy forces of wokery to make the main character of its upcoming Assassin's Creed a black samurai, contradicting historical evidence. And then, of course, they added, for the record, there is plenty of historical basis for the depiction of black samurai Yasuke in the game. But no citation was given.
Yes.
No citation was given for that. You're just supposed to take that for granted from the journalist.
It doesn't matter. The argument can go back to a simple one. It's like, why use the outlier example when you could tell a more traditional story? Mm. Why?
Well, we know why. Yeah. Because these are Westerners, usually Americans, making these games, and it's not woke enough to simply make a historically accurate game about Japanese history. You have to insert Western racial politics into it. Mm-hmm. And they're patting themselves on the back for it. Mm-hmm. That's very clearly the reason they chose to do that. It's a creative choice you could have made, as you said, in maybe the 2000s or the early 2010s without much pushback. But now people have caught on to what's going on. It's not something that's going on naturally. There are quotas and corporate guidelines that they're using to make these decisions.
I'm the type of consumer, maybe not with games, but with movies and stuff, where I'm the person you want, right? I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. And the reason why it worked back in the day is because casting was still going to the best actors, right? So when you cast someone in a non-traditional role, and it's an act, like when they race swapped Denzel Washington in Man on Fire, no one's going to question that because it's Denzel Washington. Right. He's got 30 years of acting experience to tell you why they did that. Okay? And I'm the person that you're looking for there. I'm happy to consume as long as the product is good. But now there are too many examples of these things going bad that nobody buys that it was in good faith. And that's even beyond the idea of knowing about what their policies are like behind the scenes. Even if you don't know the policies of what's going on behind the scenes, they're saying, why is this happening? And the product is bad.
Hey, I think you really hit on something. It was kind of similar with Idris Elba being James Bond, where I thought that would have been awesome because he had the vibe. And so, and again, vibe is this like intrinsic.
I mean, he's gravitas. And,
he's cool. He's actiony, and you could see a guy like that being a badass.
But now, because people know that there's agendas behind this, no one's going to buy that Barbara Broccoli is going to do this because it was necessarily the right candidate. Maybe for him, yes. But if you do any other actor, they're going to be like, there was a motive behind this. We're not buying it. Now, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say there was a call to action at the end of this opinion piece from Keza McDonald that is basically calling on all of these game studios to come forward publicly and denounce the behavior of Gamergate 2.0 trolls. And here it says, if Gamergate proved anything, it's that nobody has to pander to rage-baiting toxic gamers or even listen to them. That said, I still don't think there's been enough public pushback against this flavor of online abuse from the biggest publishers in games over the past few months, when the consultancies they work with, the journalists and critics who cover them, and even some of their own game developers have been caught in the online shitstorm. Take it from me, vocal support means a lot. Do you guys think it's fair to expect these game publishers, these studios, to make public statements in support of their own critics, the people who are reviewing their games? Because I certainly don't think that's a reasonable request.
I mean, I don't know. That's kind of a complicated question. I feel like you should, when you're a game studio, all you should care about is the quality of your product and not even be, it's kind of, you shouldn't even be part of that conversation.
Yeah.
It feels like beneath you.
I love the idea of a studio just not addressing any of it and just doing their updates as per usual.
But silence is violence.
A lot of people, a marketing person might say you're missing out on an opportunity. Now, these would be people who aren't paying attention to the culture war, but a marketing person who doesn't get it might say like, look, there's a lot of interest here. You should address this. But I think for the most part, not addressing it is the best thing for most of these studios and stuff to do most of the time. Also, I want to point out James Bond, Idris Elba would be a far better villain than actual James Bond. He would.
If you choose a competent actor,
yes,
usually people don't care.
Yes.
But it's never about that. It's never about making the best product. It is about seeming virtuous, and they're not going to learn any lessons from this. I mean, Gamergate was proven to be basically a lost battle that didn't actually change anything.
A good question to ask would be, what would the studio have suffered if they had told a traditional Assassin's Creed story set in Japan?
Then it would have been the other side being like, why isn't there black queer women representation? Like someone always gets angry.
They're still not white, at least, right? Would that be enough for them? Would they be satisfied with that?
They consider Asians white adjacent.
Yeah, but
basically.
It would have been like the Dylan Mulvaney, like, oh, why isn't Dylan Mulvaney talking about, the castration in Uganda, like whatever the hell that chick brought up.
Proof that you can't win.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.